Hello guys, my name's EFK. Welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk about something that might be seen as a little bit weird, a little bit awkward for me to admit due to recently my conversation with Ballistic Coffee Boy. Shout out to him by the way. He's got some great Atari videos. But I want to talk about Atari and whether or not I think Atari's got a nostalgia problem when it comes to their newer releases and how they can improve on this going forward. Now, with Atari, obviously Atari since about the original Xbox generation, they've been re-releasing their old IPs, or they've been remaking them in some way to try and like recapture the magic they had back in the 70s and 80s when there was like the glory days and everyone was buying Ataris. Now, I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with them doing stuff like the Atari flashback consoles or the Atari uh, 50th anniversary collection. I think they're all great ways to, refresh the brand's image in a lot of people's eyes and make people remember that it's still going all these years later, especially since the Fuji logo, which is the Atari logo, is one of the most iconic logos in gaming. However, I do want to say, when it comes to the actual games Atari's been releasing, I do feel they have a bit of a nostalgia problem when it comes to their single games. Because, as you know, most of Atari's more recent games have been part of the Atari Recharged series, which are selling pretty well from what we know. From what we know, they're selling a few thousand units per game. But from what we look at it, they're not really making new IPs in a lot of ways. One of their most notable new IPs is Combinera. Right? Combinera is obviously this really good, really fun little platforming game. Obviously, I own it on my Steam Deck. I paid about, I think it was like what? I think I paid like £8 to £10, something like that for a game, and that's good. It's a budget title, but it's fun. So all these levels, it's a really fun game. But that was reported by a load of media outlets as the first new IP from Atari in 27 years, right? And to me, that's a bit of a problem. Because if that is the newest IP from Atari in 27 years, I'm not sure how sure if it is or not, then they need to, get back out there and make some other fresh IPs, new franchises, new games, new ideas, new risks. But then you've also got to realize that Atari's known for stuff like Centipede, they're known for stuff like Pong, they're known for stuff like Breakout. So Atari's got kind of an issue, in my opinion, where they could make all these games uh, or new ideas and new IPs and new franchises that they want to make, but it could also affect their bottom line as it's obviously a new franchise. It'll take risk. It's a big risk. Would it be worth it? Or in some cases, is it a small indie game that they could easily publish on their system, so the entire VCS and then Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam, and would it be profitable for them? Now, we don't know the actual sales numbers from Atari, obviously per game, but we do know that Atari is somewhat having a revival in a lot of ways. The Recharge series are seeming to get a lot of attention from a lot of YouTubers and whatnot, and they are getting thousands of views on YouTube when trailers and that come out. But we don't really know how well they're doing, financially, how many sales each game's gotten. Because when Atari reports their sales numbers, they report them as how much revenue they've made over the game segment, not as individual sales. So hopefully they're doing really well. But I do feel like Atari could benefit in a lot of ways from trying to, taking a few more little risks, because to a lot of people, to a lot of younger gamers, a lot of these Atari Recharge games aren't really for them. They're not really their cup of tea. But if they made like say an indie platformer like Shovel Knight, something similar to Shovel Knight, or something along the lines of, I don't know, Stardew Valley or something, I could see Atari making a new franchise like one of those, something like that, and it doing really well in sales and really well and bringing a lot of profits into Atari for the future growth as well as the VCS growth and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. It's just, would it be a big risk for Atari to do it? Yeah, I think it would be. But if Wade Rosen is confident in funding, putting all this money into Atari and funding it and all that sort of, bring it back to its glory days, then Atari needs to do that. He needs to shut up, put his money where his mouth is, and make Atari great again by funding newer games and newer IPs. Because new IPs is what appeals to the newer generations in a lot of ways. Obviously there's some exceptions when it comes to entertainment in general, where like things like Mickey Mouse are iconic no matter what age you're in. You know what Mickey Mouse is, but a lot of people don't know what Roller Coaster Tycoon is, or Centipede, or Pong, or Breakout. So it could be easier for Atari to make some new franchises, to appeal to the younger audience, which could then increase their sales, increase interest in the VCS, and maybe interest in other increase interest in other Atari franchises and other Atari games like the Recharge series or their collect compilations. I'm not entirely sure what Atari can do or what they're going to do, because obviously I don't run Atari. I'm not Wade Rosen. I'm not one of the executives. I don't know what happens inside Atari. I can only report on what I know or give my opinion. And this video is purely my opinion. Now, I do want to mention, I do own stock in Atari. I own about 80 shares in Atari at the time of making this video, with me looking at increasing my stake, obviously. But to me, I feel like Atari needs to make some new franchises, new IPs, and be a bit more of a risk taker in a lot of ways, because it could help benefit them in the future. Could it also blow up in their face and make them go bankrupt? Yeah, it could do, but I don't know. I don't know what to really say otherwise. Besides, I do feel that Atari has a bit of an issue when it comes to modern gamers, where a lot of modern gamers aren't playing Atari games because, well, they don't really appeal to them because they don't know the franchise, they don't know the retro theme, or they're like, in some cases, they'll look at the graphics of like a 2600 game like, well, that's awful. But to me personally, I feel like Atari could benefit from making some new franchises and trying more risks, doing some more stuff like Combinera, some newer indie games that just feel fresh, and they would then leave a mark on players who are then like, oh, I enjoyed Combinera, I might check out Atari Centipede Recharged or something like that. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff. I've been Ethcade, and I'm signing out. Peace.